Okie dokie, shall we do Not Alone? Let's do Not Alone, because we're not alone, okay. I've come so far, the journey's been long, searching for something. When I first started to get the confidence to kind of fuse traditional Māori elements with contemporary, it was bringing all these different worlds together, and it was making a political point, but also a creative point about how there's this natural synergy, and it's kind of in that little vortex there that it gets really exciting as an artist. There's so much beauty and potential when you mix things up, when you trust each other, when you build relationships. I'm not alone, I'm not alone, I'm coming home. Ko tongariro te maunga, ko taupo te moana, ko tūwhare tō te iwi, ko te heuheu te tangata, no te waka o te aroa ahau, no Ngāti Piki o Tūhaurangi, Ngāti Wāhi o ahau. I'm a storyteller. I work across music, film and writing. Dad is Ngāti Tūwhare tō Aotearoa. Mum has Irish and English roots, so there wasn't going to be a lot of reo in our home. Mum was really keen to learn, but Dad kind of came from that era where, you know, the mouth was washed out with soap if you spoke Māori at school or you were hit. But he would, you know, say haere ki te moe or haere ki te kai or turi turi, those sort of basic sentences to us. My 4 sisters and brother and I grew up in Invercargill. Our dad was a cargoologist, aka a wharfie, and it was a very Pākehā neighbourhood, very working class, very neighbourly. You could go into anybody's homes and have a kai, and it was a great upbringing. Then we moved to Rotorua, which was quite a culture shock, exposing us to things we hadn't come across before, like te reo all the time. Suddenly discovered all these relations that I didn't know existed, became more involved in our marae and lived with our koro for a long time. Him going to land meetings, these mysterious land meetings where he'd get in a car with his hat and his walking stick and drive off to, Mokai. Our mother kind of assimilated into our family and is, highly regarded across our whānau. She just found her place and she never felt threatened about it. She was hugely supportive of us learning Māori, and now she's, like one of the kuia, but she knows all the whakapapa too. She knows how this person joins with that person way better than her kids. She's been a role model to us. My dad always had a guitar, ukulele or a saxophone in the house, and he could play the piano. So we always had music in our life. My father and his brothers were like the platters. They would sing all these doo-wop songs, and to the horror of my sisters and brother and I, we were expected to do the same. So I don't really like singing back home on the marae. I don't mind singing overseas to a bunch of Russians or Germans, but down in Whakareorewa where everyone can sing, I'm kind of like, I'm good, thank you. I never contemplated university. For me, that was an alien planet. It was for Pākehā, it was for rich people, it was for really clever people. No one had gone to university in my family. My dad took me around Waikato University. I think, me and him winding around the campus trying to figure out how to enrol was quite a special moment because, Dad was a wharfie. We both were like aliens on this planet. But then I transferred to Auckland and did law. And there was hardly any Māori that were in law. So all the brown ones, we just kind of went to the back row of the lecture theatre. There was a Cook Islander, there was a Samoan, a Tongan, There's a couple of Māori.
I hereby officially inform every person here, all trespassers, intruders.
I was at school when Bastion Point and the Land March was on. I was still at school. And I used to believe everything that was in the newspapers or hear on the radio or see on television, like that was a fact. And it wasn't until I got to law school, some of those professors, they'd go, you know, not everything in the paper is true. And this was like a revelation to me. Like many people in 81, I was part of the anti-Springbok tour movement. I was very much a foot soldier. I was not a leader. I was with the people that didn't really want to get hurt, like with the nuns, the clowns, the people who are disabled. But one of the most horrible things back then was to realise that actually the police didn't really care, you know, when you get kicked when you're on the ground. That was a bit of a shock for me. I got exposed to a lot of thinking at university, and I'm so grateful to it. And the people that were my mentors, my professors and my good friends there are still in my life. So I check with them back and forth, like send them an email, what do you think about this? Or, you know, we still have that relationship because we're still part of that big movement where we're, you know, trying to be useful. I just started to sing to kind of support myself, you know, to pay my way through. Dalvanus came into my life. That Piki Maunga from Taranaki, he was just so fabulous. And he was looking for more Māori women to be involved in recording because it was nothing. So he got me singing the song Kua Makona, and that kind of became a little underground hit. You know, as much as it could in a time when there was no iwi radio. And then through that, I met Ngāhiwi Apanui. He was part of the band Aotearoa. They're quite a radical, bilingual band based in Wellington. And he asked me if I'd join, so I thought, why not? And we went on tour, did the orientation tour. We went to Victoria University, and in the dining room at the marae, these young people my age were speaking Māori, and it just blew me away. I said to Ngāhiwi, how come they know how to speak Māori? He says, they learnt it at Ngāti Raukawa, where Whatarangi Winiata had these total immersion programs. My husband at the time had the whakapapa hookups, so we enrolled into Raukawa, and geez, what a liberating, empowering experience that was.
It's time to. It's time to. It's time to.
An opportunity came up for me to be part of a big tour that was being organised. So I decided that I should start my own band and take the best out of Aotearoa, which was the politics, the bilingualism, the kaupapa, and mix it up with what I'd loved from being in the clubs, which was, you know, having fun. Minaripia was part of a big band, and she was a dancer, but she really wanted to be a singer, so we asked her to come in the band, and Tere Moana Rapley, who was with Upper Hutt Posse, we thought, oh, she's pretty cool. And so it was the first time that there'd been three, you know, brown women fronting a big band that was starting to dabble really creatively in kind of fusing Māori music, contemporary elements with traditional. I was working on my first album, Tahi. It was a good idea that, Tahi Rua Toriwhare Mo'ono. And Murray Kamek, who ran the record company, said, you need one more song. Why don't you just do something no one's ever going to play on the radio or in a club, just totally off the wall. You don't really hear that a lot from record company people. There was someone I met at the time, Ruia Abrahama, who I really admired. He was really steeped in his Māoritanga. He was a great singer. So I said to Ruia, have you got anything? Have you got anything that we could play with? So he said, yeah, I've got a kind of a more tear-like song, and it's about unity. So I thought, oh, that's Joyce. Can you come in the studio then? Because I thought that we had our own style of hip-hop in our culture. It's kind of what you hear on the marae, the snappy delivery vocals. So I'd say, why don't you just do this kids game? It's like a hey tama tu tama hey tama tu tama hey tama tu tamara. You go, what? What? Oh. I said, no, just go do it, you'll be right. So he'd go and do it, and he'd think, oh man. And then I was like, do a tau parapara like you do on the marae. You know, like that. Ruia, ruia. He's like, oh, okay. He'd go in the booth. Ruia, ruia. I was thinking, oh my God, it's so beautiful. The next song that we put out was a song called A.E.I.O.U, and that was promoting the necessity for people to pronounce our names correctly. It was that simple, and that got slam dunked really by radio. I was told it was too preachy, and we're not going to play that, that foreign language stuff on the radio, even though it was mainly in English. So that was really disappointing, and we really didn't get that. Feeling a little bit like, oh man, what's going on here? No one's going to play our stuff on the radio. And then going overseas, and everyone was really fascinated by the Māori stuff. And I had one haka guy that I took with me, and everyone fell in love with him and what he was doing on stage. And we're thinking, how? This is amazing. We don't get that reaction at home. Moving offshore and then hearing people, from the Lakota Sioux, who we'd hear when we were performing in Greece, or to Sami up in the Arctic, or Taiwanese Indigenous people, I can hear the same things going on. There's a familiarity about it, and also when you have these conversations with people, there is a natural synergy. There's a shared experience of colonisation, of loss of language and culture and identity. And then as we've travelled mainly with my band, Moana and the Tribe, wherever we've gone, and if we've met people, we don't actively seek them out. They just kind of come into our, space, and then say, oh, how would you like to do something in this song? Oh, okay. Right, and it's beautiful. I love it.
All right, who's doing the first pull-ups?
Me!
All right.
I met this really lovely guy, Toby Mills, and he was starting out in documentary making. We actually went on our first big date to the Māori Sports Awards. He looked quite sharp too. I sort of looked all right in those days too. And the night after, we had dinner with my mate Hinewehi and her dad and our ariki, Tumu Te Huhu. And I don't know how that happened, but anyway, Tumu goes to Toby, what do you do? He says, I make documentaries. He said, oh, you should come and interview Ka Rakopai. She's 97, and she's like been a lady in waiting to the ariki Te Huhu line. So next minute we're down there interviewing this kuia, and it was, oh my God, I'm so glad we did that.
Ko tike mak. Whanau mai au, ana me te pepe tāne nei. Whakaritengia, hei wahine, hei tāne.
We interviewed a whole lot of elders really from another era. We created a series called Ngā Mōrehu, End of an Era. And they really were, they came from arranged marriages, and everything had a spiritual dimension to it, and it was very powerful. So that's how I got into filmmaking. I sort of got bullied into writing at E-Tangata, which I'm so pleased that I was. I think in another life, if I had enough time, I probably would have been a journalist. It's kind of a little bit close to being an archivist and a lawyer. I'm very curious. I want to know more. I want to get in there and dig deeper and, like, why is that person doing that? Why is that person thinking that? So It's an insatiable curiosity, and it's not disciplined. You know, a disciplined person would churn out a column on a regular basis. I can't. I've got to wait till something gets on my goat, and then I drop everything. And then I slave over it for days. And then I send it in and they go, what's the point you're trying to make? And then I revisit it. When Willie and I decided we were going to speak only Māori to our son, it was met with a little bit of resistance from both families because, you know, my father-in-law was just the awesome speaker, so, you know, we weren't quite anywhere near that. It was still novel in 1992 for 3. But then my brother and my sisters, they all got on the real journey too. And all their children are bilingual. They're just fantastic speakers. I mean, when you think about how far we've come, you know, since the kohanga reo movement started in the 80s, when I put out Kua Makona, there was still not a lot of Māori around. And now we've got all these little midgies running around speaking Māori and grown-up kids like my son who are working in the media speaking Māori. It's, you know, it's amazing. It's heartening. When I first started Moana and the Moor Hunters, for us, and it wasn't us, you know, it was Willie, it was Wynne, it was all the people around me. It was to make Māori feel good about being Māori, to be visible. You know, they always talk about the glass ceiling. We weren't even in the bloody room. You know, it was freaking shocking. But there are a lot of people working in so many different ways to raise everybody's well-being and emotional well-being and identity and everything about us. Now, I think it's about keeping the challenge up, but also reminding people that there's power in being connected with each other. So the storytelling in the songs and in the film and in the writing is about trying to find a way to build those relationships, to build allies and champions and help people realise that we're not that different, you know. It's challenging and it's tiring. I suppose the hardest thing is feeling maybe I could do it better. You know, if I just concentrated on something, one thing, if I just concentrate on one thing, maybe I could do that better instead of like being all over the place. So that's, you know, sometimes I just wonder whether I'm doing enough or doing it well enough. So I'm always second guessing myself.
The Hall of Fame includes some of New Zealand's most treasured musicians, and tonight, as we all know, one more will be added.
See, mahana. Look at that. Kei te whiti te rā, baba. I'm always saying to my daughter, taiho, hang on. I'll just do this first. And then, you know, the poor kid's asleep. So I have big guilty moments. And but having said that, they seem pretty like together, both kids. But it's probably in spite of their manic mother. At the moment, I'm working on a heart project where I've co-written 6 songs with Scotty Morrison, who's been a great mentor to me in terms of the reo, and our collaborator, Paddy Free. We've written 6 songs based on karakia. They're all new, and each one has got a guest female vocalist from an Indigenous nation. I create space in each song, and then I say, there's only 2 things I want you to do. I want you to stick to the reo, your reo. I want you to create something that's in the kaupapa of this particular song, and then let them go for it.
I may be tempted, no turning back.
For me as a parent, I find it quite traumatising thinking about the world that my daughter is inheriting. So the goal for me is to be part of a movement which builds connections, which reminds people that there's value in being connected spiritually and to your ancestors, to your descendants, to the earth, to each other. There's so much division now, you know, that building relationships and connections is more important than ever. And our languages and our way of looking at the world is a real gift, and it's inspiring, it's uplifting, it's reaffirming, and meeting these other communities really does help you understand that you're not alone. I mean, we're not alone as Māori. I'm not alone as a Māori woman artist who likes to fuse things. You realise that, you know, everyone's in the same kind of a space, actually. So there's a lot of strength in that. That's the thing that keeps me kind of uplifted.
I'm coming home.
Come on, 'cause you gotta go.
Tēnā koutou irirangi te motu I te pūtia tautoko, ka rawe.